Yep, that's a great point. All right, let's move on a little bit. I do want to talk about some of the decisions of players that have come back. Obviously, Hunter Dickinson is coming back. Kofi Cockburn is coming back. It ain't going to be to Illinois. Miles McBride, Deuce is gone. I'm sorry. Your guy's not going to be there next year. But the biggest news of the last week, John Fanta. You know what it is. Your boy's back. The Johnnies are back, baby. Are they making it to the Final Four? What do we got here? What do we got, Fanta?
Julian Champagnie is back, and St. John's fans believe that the Final Four should be the expectation, and that's why we love them. That's why Jeff Goodman loves them. Look, this is big news, and here's why. Julian Champagnie is a guy who averaged in and around 20 points per game last year. The game comes easy to this 6'7", 6'8" forward. He's a New York kid. He plays that style. He's a catch-and-shoot four-man. He stretches the floor. Julian Champagnie was a quality player entering his sophomore year at St. John's this past season. He became a great player. You know why? He had a point guard who could give him the basketball and who defended. And Posh Alexander is that guy. After Villanova, the Big East is a mystery entering next season. If you ask 10 different people at a street corner who the second best team in the Big East is, you might get 10 different answers. And I believe here that what Julian Champagnie's decision to return to St. John's means is St. John's now has two All-Big East first-team caliber players in Champagnie and Posh Alexander. And if one of them weren't on the first team, they'd be the sixth or seventh best player in the league instead of the fourth or fifth. My point, you can't say that about other Big East teams entering this upcoming season. There's mysteries. UConn, who is going to be the stud? There are candidates, but who is going to be the stud? Seton Hall, they have some replacements to make. They have some new guys. They brought in Kadari Richmond. He should be a quality ad. But how do they hash things out post Sandro Mamukelashvili? And you could go right down the line with some other teams. Xavier, they look like they're going to be good, but they still have to prove it. Butler, they return virtually everybody, but can they be a great team? St. John's has two great players back, the reigning Big East Coach of the Year in Mike Anderson, and addition by subtraction, they let go of some kids with the transfer stuff, and they've brought in a variety of different players, Aaron Wheeler from Purdue, Montez Mathis from Rutgers, guys that have experience that have been around winning. I'm buying St. John's partially because they have two All-Big East first-team caliber players in Julian Champagnie and Posh Alexander, and partially because I think there's a lack of clarity on who exactly the cream of the crop in the Big East is heading into next season. And if I see two stars on a team, I look and say the expectation should be that they're an NCAA tournament team and a team that could win a game or two on the big dance floor.
Mm-hmm. Day. So, elsewhere in the country, we have Drew Timme's coming back to school at Gonzaga. We have Colin Gillespie, Jermaine Samuels, Justin Moore coming back to school at Villanova. We have Oshai Baji and Remy Martin coming back to school at Kansas. We have Andrew Jones, Courtney Ramey coming back to school at Texas, who added about 17 different transfers this offseason and may still add Marcus Carr, the transfer from Minnesota. We have Jaime Jaquez coming back to UCLA. Don't have any word yet on Johnny Juzang. I hope that he ends up coming back. I think that'd be the right decision. Trevion Williams, Jaden Ivey coming back at Purdue. We have Matthew Meyer coming back at Baylor. We have Hunter Dickinson coming back to Michigan. We have at Oregon a bunch of players coming back. We have guys coming back at Duke, Alabama, Ohio State. We have a loaded college basketball season coming up next season. I'm so fired up for this. Like, I'm just looking through rosters now. Like, next year is going to be really, really good for the sport, I think.
Has Kofi named where he might go?
No, the assumption is that it's going to be Kentucky because of the two assistant coaches from Illinois to Kentucky. But they still have Big Sheeb on the roster. So we'll see how that all kind of shakes out. If Kofi's going to Kentucky, there's going to have to be some moving parts on that roster.
Sure. And I got a chance to watch Kofi, and I got a chance to watch Hunter at the G League Elite Camp. I am big fans. Like, I was a big fan of Hunter during the year anyway, but getting a chance to like actually watch them against what you would say is like some of the top players in the country there. Wherever Kofi lands, they got one. Like, hopefully those guys go back to school. They do what they need to do, and not take care of the things they need to take care of. Kofi with ball screen coverage, being able to work in the defensively in the ball screen, and Hunter just expanding his game, showing that he has more to his game. I think that'll be good. Wherever Kofi lands, I expect to see those guys do pretty well in the tournament because seeing him in person and seeing him compared to all of these other guys and watching what he did this past year, running the floor, showing nothing but great effort on the glass, scoring in the paint, and then getting a chance to see him in person. There's not many people, there's not many big dudes like that move like that bring that kind of energy. He just needs to put some work in. But wherever he falls, I'm actually going to be a little bandwagon fan and follow Kofi, bro.
So I have hot takes. I want your opinion on this. I think so. There's the narrative with both of those guys, Kofi and Hunter, is that they are too big. They're kind of dinosaurs. Like the NBA doesn't play that way. I don't think that I necessarily agree with that. I just think that you have to understand what their role is. And my take is they have to more or less turn themselves into Boban, more or less, which essentially means you got to be a guy that can really, really be effective in drop coverage. You have to be a guy that buries anybody that you get in the post and can score like 75% of the time. You have to be someone that has range out to about 12 to 15 feet so you can space the floor a little bit. You have to be someone that can be really, really effective making reads and kind of short roll actions. You have to be able to be really, really good in drop coverage because that's going to be the only way that you're going to be able to play. And if you do that, I think it's very clear that there are spots in the NBA for you to be able to do that kind of a thing. That job is available. You're not going to be a star. You're going to be coming off the bench. It's going to be a matchup dependent kind of thing, how much you get used, but there are jobs for you. You have to be one of the 10 best in the world at it, though. You have to be able to shoot 60% on 12-foot to 15-foot jumpers. You have to be an 80% free throw shooter. You have to be elite at all of those little things, and you'll be able to have a job in the NBA. Kofi, I think, has a pretty good chance to get there. You got to develop the shot a little bit. Can't be a 50% free throw shooter, whatever he was, right? Got to be better in drop coverage. Yeah. Hunter, I think maybe he could get there too. Got to be better in drop coverage. Got to be able to see that stroke at some point, right? But to me, that's what they have to do to be able to get a job in the NBA. And I think it's going to be there for both of them.
No, I for sure definitely think so. Go ahead, Fanta.
Well, guess what? They have the opportunity to have a job in the NBA, and would their decisions been the same if they didn't have the NIL equation? And the answer to that question would be, I don't think so. So this is the beauty of coming back to school. We all three of us think that these guys can be NBA players. One thing that always stands out to me with Hunter Dickinson is the IQ that he plays the game with. He's deliberate in everything he does. When he came in as a freshman, the way that the game came to him, and the way that when he had the basketball, he dictated the way that the game was going to get played. You don't see that often from freshmen in this sport. Sometimes there's freshmen like a Jalen Suggs, who's going to be one of the top picks in the NBA draft, where they're doing things that are so advanced, they don't even know exactly what they're doing half the time because that's just how fast and kind of how Energizer Bunny, new type of guy in the sport they are. For Dickinson, what I noticed right away is just the pace at which he played, but he allowed it to go the way he wanted it to. He was in control. He has things to work on. He can work on those things. He can make Michigan one of the best teams in the country. The Wolverines have a loaded 6-man class that I think if even half the class can pan out well, Michigan might be the deepest roster in college basketball this upcoming season now with the return of Hunter Dickinson. But, Rob, I was listening to you break down each team, right? And break down who's coming back and what's happening. And I am here to say, proclaim here on July the 7th, 2021.
Oh, boy.
That I believe for the first time in 3 years, and it's weird even saying that, the Kansas Jayhawks are going to win the Big 12 this upcoming season because you bring in a player as good as Remy Martin, and you have Agbaji back, you have Jalen Wilson back, David McCormick, the core of guys is back, and you welcome in a good core of players. Bill Self is ready to punch back in the Big 12 this upcoming year. The most fascinating team in the country heading into this season is the Kansas Jayhawks because I like what they have coming back, and I think Remy Martin needed a better situation. Kansas is going to provide him a better situation than Arizona State did, and I think the Jayhawks could take off. And with the return of fans, so will Allen Fieldhouse.
They also have a couple other players coming in. They got the transfer from Drake, Joseph Yusufu, Jalen Coleman-Lands, who is actually as old as Deshaun. He turns 37. He turns 37 this year. But you buried the lead, right? You buried the lead in that. Yes, they have Remy Martin. Yes, Oshai Abaji is back. Yes, Jalen Wilson is back. But Shaq McCormick at the 5. Deshaun Butler's preseason National Player of the Year. Shaq McCormick. Let's go.
Literally, that's what I was going to say. I was fan of heart of hearts, I love David McCormick. I don't know if they'll win the league, but if David McCormick's back, I'm not going to lie to you. I got Kansas definitely being in that championship game. Because the way he finished the season up, I tried to tell my guy Rob, give him some time, and Rob refused to. But my gosh, he finished the season off strong last year. To the point of Remy Martin helping the scenario, I wonder, because we know who Remy Martin is. He's a great player, but he is a volume shooter, though. And when you get to a team, well, obviously when you get you transfer in, everybody knows what he can do. But it's going to be, I'm going to be very intrigued to see how that volume shooting fits into a scenario where you don't have somebody just being catering to get him the ball so he can get those volume shots. Like, he's going to be playing on a team where there's going to be a lot of guys. So is he going to be as efficient? That's what I wonder, because I love watching him play there. Like, it was, of course, like he was a preseason pick for All-American and everything. Like, I was excited to watch him play. I just wonder when you get volume shooters in situations where you're surrounded around a bunch of guys who can play. Not saying he can't play. He can definitely play. That's a given. But are you going to be as consistent with less shots on that team? And, he's a 2-guard in a point guard's body. So I wonder how, I just wonder how it's going to work.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if there is ever in the history of college basketball been a more obvious candidate for a sponsor than Remy Martin.
Facts.
Remy Martin. If that kid is not getting a bag from Remy Martin, what are we doing here?